The sacrifice path. There are only three ways an empire ends: by conquest, by extinction, or by transformation. The ancient appeared again at dusk, no earthquake, no warning, just presence. Seraphina stood alone this time. Caleb was deliberately kept away. You love the consort. Seraphina did not deny it. Speak your price. The ancient stepped closer. Bind your kind to us. End free immortality. Seraphina's eyes hardened. Explain. The ancient's voice deepened. Vampires will no longer multiply endlessly. No new turning without sanction. No domination. No empire beyond balance. Seraphina swallowed. He is the cost. Seraphina did not scream. She did not rage. She whispered, I need time. The ancient nodded. You have until the Concord's final strike. The most dangerous lies are the ones told in silence. Caleb prepared the final defense. Evacuations, fallback tunnels, last stands. Silas watched him quietly. You're planning like someone who won't be here after. Caleb didn't look up. I'm planning like someone who understands endings. Seraphina watched Caleb from a balcony. She almost told him. Almost. Instead, she ordered the covens to rally. We hold the city. No one questioned her. No one saw the tremor in her hands. In a Concord war chamber, the final order was given. All sun engines. All relic divisions. Tonight. The night did not fall. It was torn away. Sun engines ignited across the continent. The sky burned. Sanctified zones overlapped. Vampires collapsed mid-fight. The Death-Givers bled daylight. Caleb fought like a storm, but storms end. A Concord relic detonated behind him. Light swallowed sound. When it faded, Caleb was gone. Seraphina felt it instantly. She staggered. No. The ancient appeared beside her. The price has arrived. Power does not reveal who we are. Loss does. Caleb was bound in sanctified iron. The Concord commander stood before him. You are the symbol. Caleb smiled faintly. Symbols burn brightly. And briefly. Seraphina stood before the ancient once more. Her voice did not shake. I accept. The ancient inclined its head. Then immortality ends tonight. And the consort will not return. Seraphina closed her eyes, then nodded. Across the world vampires felt it. A severing, a boundary. The age of endless night was ending. History will say the war ended quietly. History lies. The ancients rewrote the blood. No screams, no fire, just finality. Vampires weakened, but stabilized. No longer limitless, no longer multiplying, balanced. The Concord's weapons failed. Relics dimmed, sun engines collapsed. Human armies retreated in confusion. Caleb's chains fell away. The commander stared at his instruments. What did you do? Caleb felt the change, felt mortality brush his soul. She saved the world. At dawn, Caleb returned to New Orleans. Seraphina waited by the river. She did not wear a crown. She looked tired. Caleb stepped closer. You chose them over me. Seraphina met his gaze. I chose us. Caleb felt his heartbeat. Slow, human. He touched his chest. I'm dying. Seraphina nodded. So am I. Eventually, they stood together as the sun rose. Not burning, just warm. Years later, stories would circulate. Of a queen who surrendered eternity. Of a man who taught monsters how to live. Of a world that learned fear, then learned restraint. The veil was not restored. It was replaced with truth and choice. Because the greatest power was never immortality. It was knowing when to let it end. After the Concord War, the world did not end. It reorganized. And in New Orleans, the night learned a new language. Not claws. Not crowns. Contracts. In a garden behind an apothecary, candles burned in daylight. Their flames were small, but the air felt heavy. Seraphina stood beside Caleb. Both looked human. Warm skin, color in their faces, breath in their throats. A lie woven so well it almost felt true. Across from them, 7 witches formed a circle. Their leader spoke. You want the sun. Seraphina held her gaze. I want peace. Mother Sable smiled slightly. Peace is not a gift, it is rent. Caleb's jaw tightened. Name it. Mother Sable lifted a parchment. No mass turning, no open rule. And when humans look too closely, you disappear. Seraphina did not blink. Agreed. The witches drew a circle of salt and crushed herb. Mother Sable touched Seraphina's forehead. Then Caleb's. The world shifted. Sunlight felt neutral. Not enemy, not weapon, just day. Caleb exhaled slowly. I can feel my pulse. Mother Sable nodded. The glamour mimics life. Her eyes sharpened. Be careful. Anchoring the night to living rhythm changes things. Seraphina's voice was calm. We can afford change. Mother Sable's tone darkened. You can afford it. Your empire cannot. Weeks passed. Beauregard Shipping signed river contracts. Thibodeau Protection handled disputes. The foundry forged locks and hinges. The apothecary sold perfumes that carried wards in their sweetness. Humans smiled, money moved, and the covens watched. Because vampires understood one truth better than anyone. When people stop fighting, they start competing. Evangeline entered Seraphina's office with ledgers and dread. We have a leak. Seraphina looked up. Human? Evangeline shook her head once. Vampire. Ren Guidry leaned against the wall, arms crossed. The old dominators never forgave the rewrite. Silas Landry's voice was iron. Name. Evangeline hesitated. They are calling themselves the Ash Covenant. Caleb's expression tightened. What do they want? Evangeline spoke softly. Your daylight, and whatever magic made it possible. Seraphina's voice dropped cold. Then we fortify quietly. Caleb nodded. And we don't lose the city. Seraphina met his eyes. We don't lose the children. That night, a courier delivered a crate to the docks. Inside was ash, and a child's toy, freshly stolen from a Beauregard household, a message. We remember the old night. The children were not born into peace. They were born into aftermath, and aftermath always invites predators. In the courtyard at sunrise, 7 children trained. They looked human. They sounded human. But they moved like history. Seraphina watched. Caleb coached. Silas corrected posture with military cruelty. Ren taught blade angles. Evangeline taught what mattered most. How to lie without lying. Vivi, breathe and speak. Genevieve closed her eyes. Her voice came out calm. Peace. A ripple moved through the yard. The younger ones stopped fidgeting. Even Ren's shoulders relaxed slightly. Evangeline raised a brow. She can harmonize. Seraphina's expression softened. Good. Remy stepped forward. Shadows under the trees twisted like thread. They tightened into a thin barrier. Silas tapped it with a cane. Make it thicker. Remy strained. The barrier widened, then shook. Remy stumbled. Caleb caught him. Not all at once. Control. Celeste traced a symbol in the air. A faint rune flashed and vanished. Odette blinked, and her afterimage stayed behind half a second too long. Bastien clenched his fists, his skin hardened. He struck a training post. The wood cracked. Luke Lucky tossed a coin. It landed on its edge. He grinned. Rosalie watched them all. Quiet, her eyes too old for her face. Seraphina noticed. Rosalie. Rosalie looked up. Someone is dreaming about us. The Ash Covenant struck at noon. Not with claws, with accidents. A shipping crane collapsed, a fire started near the manifests, a mob formed, humans screaming, blaming, the perfect chaos. Caleb arrived first. Get the workers back. Vivi spoke softly. Calm, her voice spread like warm water. The mob's anger dulled, not gone, but slowed. Then the true attack began. 3 vampires in daylight cloaks stepped from the smoke. Daywalkers, fake glamour. Cheap, crude, they moved fast anyway. One grabbed a dockmaster. Caleb lunged, and Bastien moved first. Bastien's body went dense. He slammed into the attacker. The vampire flew through stacked crates. Odette blinked behind the second attacker, leaving an echo decoy. The attacker struck the decoy. Ren's blade met their wrist. Clean disarm. Remy threw a shadow thread barrier between the third attacker and the crowd. The attacker hissed, trapped. Celeste flared a rune. The vampire's cloak glamour shattered. Human witnesses gasped. Seraphina stepped into view at the edge of the dock. Her voice cut like velvet steel. No witnesses. Vivi's eyes widened. Mother? Seraphina nodded once. Do it gently. Vivi swallowed and spoke. Forget. A hush moved through the humans. Like a tide pulling footprints away, they blinked, confused, anger drained. Luke Lucky tossed his coin again. A musket on a guard's shoulder misfired, harmlessly, into the air. The sound startled the Ash attackers. They hesitated. Caleb used that hesitation. He struck, not killing, breaking knees, breaking grip, breaking confidence. Ren finished it. The three attackers fell bound. Seraphina stepped toward them. Her eyes were winter. Who sent you? One attacker laughed. Your children did. Silence snapped. Seraphina's gaze sharpened. Lie again, and I will teach you what truth costs. Rosalie spoke quietly behind her. He dreamed that lie first. Everyone turned to Rosalie. A witch put it in him. That night, Mother Sable arrived unannounced. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes were hard. Your youngest spoke true. Seraphina's voice cooled. Then you have a traitor. Mother Sable shook her head. No. I have a rival. The unseen clause. War is loud. Peace is quiet, and quiet requires rules. New Orleans had changed since the Concord War. The streets looked the same, but the eyes did not. People watched corners, listened to rumors, prayed harder, and the city council became something new. Not just governance, defense. In a meeting hall near the river, Seraphina arrived as Madame Beauregard. Human skin, human warmth, human smile. Caleb entered beside her. He carried papers, and the kind of calm that made men suspicious. Evangeline sat behind them poised. Ren stood by the door as security. Silas stood outside the hall like a warning. A councilman spoke first. Madame Beauregard, Mr. Thibodeau, your shipping business has grown quickly. Seraphina's smile remained polite. The river has needs, councilman. Another council member, a priest with bitter eyes, leaned forward. The river also has secrets, a murmur. Caleb's gaze stayed steady. Secrets are not crimes. Fatherwise voice sharpened. Not until they become graves. Seraphina slid a parchment across the table. A public agreement. The council members glanced at it. We fund night patrols. We build street lamps. We provide security for dock workers. In exchange, you allow our businesses to operate without harassment. Duper narrowed his eyes. And what do you want in return that you haven't written? Seraphina held the silence, then spoke gently. You will not chase rumors. The priest's lips curled. Rumors of what? Seraphina's voice was calm. Of monsters. A hush. Caleb added evenly, the city survives by staying stable. Father Lavoie leaned back watching them. So that's it? You want an unseen clause? Evangeline's eyes glinted. You may call it prudence. Lavoie's voice dropped. I call it a lie. Duper tapped the paper. Fine. Prove your intentions. Seraphina blinked once. How? Dupré gestured toward the window. Extortion. Missing workers. Caleb's jaw tightened. Seraphina kept her composure. And if we solve it? Duper nodded. Then we sign your agreement. Father Lavoie interjected. And if you don't, he smiled. Then we start searching. Seraphina rose. We will solve it. Caleb offered his hand as they left. Seraphina took it. Not for romance. For optics. For a human world that needed to believe. That night, Rosalie woke screaming. The house surged with motion. Caleb reached her first. Seraphina followed. Rosalie clutched Caleb's sleeve. Her eyes were wide and unfocused. I saw her. Seraphina crouched. Rosalie whispered, a witch. Not Sable. Rosalie's voice shook. She was red. She had a crown made of thorns. Caleb felt cold. Rogue circle. Evangeline entered quietly, already dressed. There have been whispers. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. Say her name. They call her Madame Rance. Seraphina's tone hardened. Then, we have two enemies. Caleb kissed Rosalie's hair gently. And one city watching. At midnight, the family moved. Not all 7 children, only 3, because visibility was danger. Caleb brought Vivi, Remy, and Odette. Ren shadowed the rooftops, Evangeline shadowed the people. At the docks, men gathered around a warehouse, armed, not drunk, organized. Caleb studied them. That's not a gang. Evangeline's voice was quiet. No, that's a proxy. A man stepped out, human coat, human face. But his eyes were wrong, too still. Caleb recognized it. Vampire, Odette whispered. Can I blink? Caleb nodded once. On my mark. Vivi closed her eyes. Her voice became soft and carrying. Sleep. The human swayed, not unconscious, just compliant. Remy stitched shadow into a barrier at the warehouse door. Odette blinked behind the vampire. Her echo decoy stayed forward. The vampire struck the decoy, missed. Caleb grabbed him, pinned him. Who are you working for? The vampire smiled. Caleb tightened his grip. Wrong answer. The vampire laughed. I'm not your enemy. I'm your message. From inside the warehouse, a lantern flared. A symbol burned in the air. Not vampire, not human, a witch mark, a thorned crown. Vivi gasped. It's her. Caleb's voice went low. Ronce, the vampire proxy whispered. Tell the queen. Her children belonged to the old magic. The warehouse doors exploded outward, not from gunpowder, from a rune, a red flare of witchlight. And in the smoke, someone laughed softly. A woman's laugh. Let's see how human you look when your family screams. Enemies don't attack what you love first. They attack what you need to keep living. Caleb grabbed Vivi and pulled her back. Odette blinked, grabbing Remy, dragging them out of rune smoke. Ren dropped from above and cut through the warehouse lantern. The witch mark shattered. The laughter faded. Madame Ronce vanished, like a bad thought. But the damage remained. Humans nearby were waking up. Confused. Afraid. Evangeline's eyes darted. We need the city calm before morning. Caleb looked at Vivi. Vivi nodded faintly. Her voice went out like a blanket. Forget the smoke. Forget the mark. A soft wave passed through the dockworkers. They blinked. They turned away. They convinced themselves it was only fire. Only accident. Only human. By afternoon, Councilman Dupre summoned them again. Seraphina arrived composed. Caleb arrived with evidence. Evangeline arrived with leverage. Father Lavoie arrived with suspicion. Duper looked at the papers. Missing workers. Extortion ledgers. Names. He looked up. So you solved it? Seraphina nodded. Yes. Father Lavoie leaned forward. And the strange symbol witnesses described? Seraphina's smile stayed smooth. A gang mark. Ada stared at her. You lie with grace. Caleb's voice cut in, calm. We saved your workers. Sign the agreement. Dupre hesitated, then signed. The quill scratched. The unseen clause became real. Father Lavoie did not sign. He stood slowly. I will not bless a city built on secrets. Seraphina met his eyes. Then do not. Father Lavoie turned to leave. At the door he paused. The day you fail to be human, I will be waiting. That night, 4 attacks happened at once. One at the foundry, one at the apothecary, one at a shipping warehouse, one at Caleb's agency office. Coordinated, efficient. The Ash Covenant was not testing. They were declaring war. Silas rallied fighters to the foundry. Ren took the rooftops. Evangeline vanished into informants. Seraphina stood at the center of it all and made the hardest choice. She called her children. All 7. Because this time, it was the family they were targeting. At Beauregard Shipping, the Ash Covenant hit with a strike team. 7 vampires, 2 glamored, 1 heavily aged, a veteran. Their leader stepped forward. Queen. Seraphina stepped into lantern light. Her children formed behind her. Caleb stood to her right. Human-looking, but not human. You broke the old way. Seraphina's voice was quiet. I saved what was left. The veteran's eyes flicked to the children. Hunger flashed. You made weapons. Caleb's voice was sharp. They are children. The veteran smiled. Everything is a weapon, if you're hungry enough. The Ash Covenant charged. Bastien stepped forward first. His body hardened. Blood iron. He took the first impact. He did not move. He shoved the attacker back like a door slamming. Odette blinked across the dock, leaving echoes. 2 attackers chased decoys. Ren's blade cut one down, non-lethal, kneecap severed by precision. Remy stitched shadows into a ramp, lifting Vivi above the melee. Vivi spoke once. Stop. 3 attackers hesitated, not frozen, but slowed, like their rage was forced to think. Celeste flared witchlight runes. The cheap glamour on the Ash Daywalkers shattered, their skin went gray, their eyes turned hungry. Humans nearby would have screamed, but Luke Lucky tossed his coin. A wagon rolled at the perfect moment, blocking sight. A lantern fell and extinguished. Darkness returned. Rosalie stood still. Too still. Her eyes unfocused. Caleb noticed. Rosie? Rosalie whispered. I'm holding their dreams. I'm showing them what happens if they touch us. One attacker screamed and staggered back, clutching his head. The Ash veteran roared. He leapt toward Rosalie. Seraphina moved. Fast. She intercepted. Clashed. 2 ancient vampires colliding like history. Caleb joined, not with rage, with strategy. He angled the veteran toward Bastien. Bastien caught him, held him. Blood-iron arms locked. Seraphina stepped close. Her voice dropped to a whisper only the veteran could hear. You came for my children, so you will leave. As an example, she struck, not killing, breaking. The veteran collapsed. The remaining Ash fighters fled into the river fog. Evangeline arrived late, breathing hard. They hit the apothecary. Seraphina's face went cold. They didn't steal herbs. They stole a binding ledger, Mother Sable's private book. Caleb's voice turned low. That ledger holds the glamour formulas, Seraphina whispered, and the clause that makes us human. Magic is never free, and the bill always arrives after you've grown accustomed to the comfort. The next day, the Sable Circle summoned Seraphina and Caleb, not to the apothecary, to the old garden where the first glamour was bound. The air felt heavier there, as if the ground remembered promises. Mother Sable waited with 6 witches. Her expression was calm. Her eyes were not. Someone stole my ledger. Seraphina's voice was controlled. We will retrieve it. You will do more than that. You will prove your house can keep the veil. Caleb's jaw tightened. We have kept it. Mother Sable's gaze cut toward him. The dock battle was seen. Caleb blinked. No one remembers it. Mother Sable's voice cooled. Memory is not the only witness. The city feels the shape of fear. Seraphina didn't flinch. Name your audit. Mebel lifted 3 fingers. First, retrieve the ledger. Second, remove the rogue, Madame Rance, without exposing witch war. Third, she leaned in slightly. Control your children. Silence snapped. Seraphina's eyes hardened. They are not weapons. Mother Sable's smile was thin. Everything with power becomes one. Mother Sable produced a small vial of ink-black liquid. This is the anchor. She held it up to the light. Without it, your glamour weakens. Caleb's voice went low. Are you threatening us? Mother Sable's eyes did not blink. I am protecting my circle. And reminding you. Her tone sharpened. Daylight is borrowed, not owned. Seraphina inhaled, then nodded once. Understood. Mother Sable stepped back. You have 3 nights. That evening, Seraphina gathered the 7. No soldiers, no coven elders, just family. Caleb stood beside her. Rosalie sat closest, quiet. Vivi watched everyone like she could hear the fear behind their words. Bastien looked ready to hit something. Odette bounced on her heels. Remy was already scanning the shadows. Celeste stared at her palms, feeling magic like a storm. Luke spun a coin. Listen. Silence. We are being tested. Not by humans, not only by vampires, by witches. Caleb added gently, and by ourselves. Vivi raised her hand, serious. Will they take our faces away? Caleb swallowed. Seraphina answered calmly. Not if we succeed. Rosalie's voice was soft. Rance is dreaming again. Seraphina's gaze sharpened. What is she dreaming? Rosalie closed her eyes. A crown, made of ash, and 7 little locks of hair. The room went still. Celeste whispered, that's a binding spell. Evangeline stepped from the doorway. It's worse. She held up a ribbon, a child's ribbon. She's already taken the first piece. They moved in 2 teams. Team 1, Seraphina, Caleb, Ren, and Vivi. Team 2, Silas, Evangeline, and the remaining children under strict concealment. Because the unseen clause still mattered, even now. Rosalie guided them through dream sense, not a map, a feeling, a pull. She's near the old cemetery, Caleb nodded. Then we go quiet. Odette grinned. Quiet is my second favorite thing. Ren glanced at her. What's your first? Odette smiled wider. Winning. At the cemetery gate, they found a circle of thorns. Not natural. Placed, a witch barrier. Seraphina stepped toward it. The air shimmered, and Madame Ronce's voice drifted from the dark. You've built a sweet little life. Let's see if it survives the truth. Madame Ronce did not come alone. She brought vampires who wanted the old night back, and witches who wanted the new blood gifts. In the cemetery, fog crawled between tombstones. Madame Ronce emerged. Her dress was dark red, her hair braided with thorned ribbon, her eyes bright with dangerous joy. Beside her stood 3 Ash Covenant envoys and 2 witches with their faces veiled. Queen Seraphina. Seraphina's voice was cold. You stole from the Sable Circle, Ronce smiled. I borrowed the future. She looked past Seraphina. Her gaze landed on Vivi. Such a pretty voice. Vivi stiffened. Caleb stepped forward. Don't look at her, Ronce laughed softly. Oh, the consort thinks he's a father now. Seraphina's eyes sharpened. Speak your purpose. Ronce lifted a small book, Mother Sable's ledger. I can unmask you. Or I can perfect you. She leaned in. Give me one child, one, and I will make your whole line unstoppable. Caleb's voice was a blade. No, Ronce shrugged. Then we do it the ugly way. As she spoke, distant screams rose from the city. Fires, diversions, proxy strikes. The Ash Covenant was attacking businesses again. Simultaneously, they wanted Seraphina split. They wanted the family isolated. Evangeline's voice crackled from a runner's message. Foundry under assault. Apothecary too. Silas's jaw tightened. She planned this. Seraphina's eyes stayed on Ronce. Yes. And we won't play her game. Caleb looked at Vivi, then at the others. We divide. Seraphina hesitated for a fraction. Caleb met her gaze. Sweet for this. Seraphina nodded once. Then move. Ronce snapped her fingers. Thorns rose from the ground like hands. Caleb pulled Vivi back. Seraphina stepped forward. Her voice dropped, dangerously calm. You want my bloodline? She smiled faintly. Earn it. The Ash envoys charged. Caleb moved first. Fast. He disarmed one, broke an elbow, and threw him into a tombstone. Not lethal, efficient. Ronce's witches raised their hands. A red sigil flared. Seraphina's glamour flickered. For half a breath, her skin paled into something too perfect, too still. Then Vivi spoke. Harmony. Her voice rolled outward like a bell. The witches' focus stuttered. Their spell faltered. Seraphina's glamour stabilized. Caleb stared at Vivi, proud and terrified. Good. Ronce hissed. You're learning? She slashed a thorned ribbon through the air. It snapped toward Vivi like a whip. Caleb caught it. It burned his palm. He didn't let go. Seraphina struck Ronce's wrist. Ronce retreated, laughing. Hold her. The remaining Ash envoy lunged. Seraphina intercepted, and this time she broke him. A shoulder shattered. A knee snapped. He fell screaming. Seraphina leaned close. Tell the Ash Covenant, you do not touch my children. At the foundry, Ash fighters tried to destroy the locks and hinges. Because infrastructure is power. Silas arrived like judgment. Bastien arrived like a hammer. Remy arrived like a shadow. Ash fighters hurled mirror shards into the furnace light. Reflections multiplied. The brightness forced shadows back. Remy grimaced. Too bright. Silas pointed his cane. Then make darkness. Bastien moved. He seized a heavy tarp and yanked it over the furnace opening. The foundry dimmed. Remy exhaled. Shadow threads surged. A barrier formed, thick, blocking a charging vampire. Bastien's skin hardened. He struck. The attacker flew into an anvil and went still. Silas didn't even blink. He moved like a man who had seen too many wars. He struck pressure points, broke wrists, ended fights without wasting motion. Then a senior Ash fighter stepped forward, older, smarter. A child, he nodded toward Remy. We'll take him, then stepped between them. Try. The Ash Captain smiled. Gladly, they collided. Bastian held, but the Ash Captain was experienced. He angled, he cut. Bastian hissed. Silas saw it. He stepped in. One precise strike behind the knee. The Ash Captain fell. Silas leaned in. This city is not yours. And that child is not your future. Silas knocked him out cold. At the apothecary, the attack was subtle. Not to destroy, to steal. They wanted ingredients. Hair, blood, ward ink. Evangeline arrived first. Her voice was silk. Lock the doors. Luke tossed his coin. A lock clicked into place as if it had always been closed. Celeste's hands glowed faintly. Rosalie's eyes unfocused. She whispered, "They're afraid." Evangeline's eyes narrowed. "Of what?" Rosalie swallowed. "Of me." A rogue witch stepped from behind shelves. She flung a thorn charm. Celeste raised her hands. Witchlight flared. The charm disintegrated in midair. Celeste's eyes widened. "I can break it." Evangeline nodded. "Then break everything they throw." 2 ash vampires crashed through the back. Luke whispered, "Oops." A shelf toppled at the perfect time. Bottles shattered, oil spilled. 1 ash vampire slipped and slammed into a counter. Evangeline stepped in and pinned him. Rosalie reached out, without touching. Her voice was soft. "Dream." The ash vampire's eyes went glassy. He trembled. He whispered, "The Red Witch? She promised us the children." Rosalie's face tightened. She saw more than words. She saw intent. Evangeline's voice was lethal. "Where is the ledger going?" The vampire choked. "To the old church, by the river." Celeste froze. "That church is a sanctified site." Evangeline's eyes narrowed. "Then she's building a trap." By late night, all 3 battles ended the same way. The Ash Covenant fled. The businesses stood. The family survived, but the ledger was still missing, and now they had a location. The old church by the river, a sanctified place, a place where vampires weakened, a place Madame Rance chose for a reason. Seraphina gathered everyone. Her children were bruised, breathing hard, alive. Caleb looked at them, pride and fear in equal measure. Seraphina's voice was calm, but final. "Tomorrow, we end this." Deep in the old church, Madame Rance opened Mother Sable's ledger. She dipped a quill in dark ink and wrote a new clause, not unseen, not peace, a clause of ownership. She whispered, 7 heirs, 1 crown. Sanctified ground does not burn vampires. It weakens them, which is worse. The old church by the river had not been used in years. Its bells were silent, its doors were open, its candles were already lit. Seraphina stood at the threshold. Her glamour held, but thinner here. Caleb felt it immediately. A pressure behind the eyes, a drag on the blood. "This place hates us." "Then we do not linger." She turned to the 7. "No heroics. No chasing. You move as one," they nodded, even Bastien. Inside, Madame Rance waited. The ledger lay open on the altar. Ash Covenant elders lined the pews. Witches stood in the shadows and bound into the floor, a circle, large enough for 7 children. Rance smiled. "Welcome to arbitration." Seraphina's voice was ice. "Release the ledger." Rance laughed softly. After the trial, Caleb stepped forward. "Trial of what?" Rance's eyes gleamed. "Inheritance." She gestured to the circle. "Let us see if the heirs are worthy or merely stolen miracles." The Ash elders began chanting. Sanctified sigils flared. The children staggered. Vivi clutched her head. Remy's shadows thinned. Celeste's runes flickered. Bastien dropped to one knee. Odette blinked and nearly collapsed mid-step. Luke's coin clattered uselessly. Rosalie gasped. "She's pulling us apart." Seraphina moved, but the sanctified circle flared. She stopped. Caleb felt rage rise, but rage would kill them here. He forced it down. Vivi looked at her siblings. She spoke, quietly, not outward, inward. "Vivi, together." The words spread. Their powers shifted, not louder, aligned. Remy stitched shadows, thin, precise, between sanctified lines. Celeste traced a counter rune using Rosalie's dream sense as a guide. Bastien steadied himself by touching the stone, using the building's weight to anchor his blood iron. Odette blinked shorter distances, half steps instead of leaps. Luke flipped his coin once. It landed flat, perfectly still. Probability settled. Rosalie closed her eyes and stepped fully into the dream beneath the church. In the dream space, Madame Ronce loomed. Her crown of thorns dripped ink. "You don't belong here, child." Rosalie met her gaze, small, unmoving. "You don't belong in my family." She reached out, not to steal, to bind. Dream chains wrapped Ronce's intent, not her body, her desire. Ronce screamed, not aloud. In the waking world, she staggered. The sanctified circle cracked, the children stood, together. Seraphina felt it, a shift, not in power, in legitimacy. Caleb moved instantly. He struck the nearest ash elder, not killing, breaking the chant. Wren dropped from the rafters. Silas entered from the back with death givers. Evangeline sealed the doors, the trap inverted. Ronce shrieked. "You think you've won?" She slammed the ledger shut. "I own the clause." Seraphina stepped forward. Her voice carried. "You owned nothing. You stole." She nodded to Celeste. Celeste raised her hands. Witchlight flared, clean, controlled. The ledger ignited, not burning, unwriting, every stolen clause erased. Ronce screamed. The ash elders recoiled. The church shook. Sanctification collapsed, and outside, rival covens gathered, drawn by rumor, by hunger, by the promise of a crown without restraint. Caleb whispered, "They're here." Seraphina answered calmly, "Good." Leadership is not claimed, it is demonstrated. Outside the church, 3 rival covens stood. Their leaders stepped forward. Old names, old grudges. Rival leader 1, "You broke the old night. You weakened us." Seraphina stepped into the open. Daylight brushed her skin. She did not burn, she did not flinch. "I saved us." The murmur rippled. Caleb joined her, human-looking, alive, breathing. "We offer structure, protection, and restraint." Laughter broke out. "And if we refuse?" Seraphina's gaze went to her children. "Then you challenge the heirs." Silence snapped. The challenge was ancient, 7 against champions, no killing, submission only. The rivals agreed, confident, foolish. The first challenger lunged. Bastien met him. Blood iron engaged, the impact thundered. Bastien held, forced the challenger to the ground, pinned, victory won. Second challenger split into shadows. Remy countered, threaded darkness with precision. Shadow locked shadow, the challenger froze, yielded. A witch-backed vampire hurled a charm. Celeste shattered it mid-air. Her witchlight formed a sigil of refusal. The challenger collapsed, magic gone. A speedfighter rushed Odette. She blinked. Echoes confused him. Luke's probability tilt caused his foot to slip at the worst moment. He fell, yielded. A manipulator tried to command Rosalie's mind. Rosalie looked at him. No. Dream chain snapped his intent. He fell sobbing, yielded. The final challenger faced Vivi. He tried to provoke her. She spoke once. Enough. His anger drained. He dropped to his knees, yielded. The rival leaders stared. Defeat without blood, power without terror. Seraphina raised her voice. "You will rule your covens, but you will rule with us." She gestured to Caleb. "Trade routes, boundaries, and one law." Her eyes hardened. "No one hunts the children." The leaders bowed, not in fear, in acceptance. Madame Ronce tried to flee. Wren stopped her, pinned her to the church wall. Seraphina approached. "You could have been infinite." Seraphina's voice was tired. "Infinite is unstable." She nodded to Mother Sable, who had arrived silently. Mother Sable raised her staff. By the circle's law, Madame Ronce was stripped. Not killed, bound. Her magic sealed, exiled beyond the wards. At dawn, Seraphina and Caleb stood on the riverwalk, their 7 children around them, the coven leaders present, the businesses secure, the veil intact. Seraphina spoke softly. "We rule by agreement." Caleb added, "And we remain unseen." By choice. The city woke, unaware, safe. Season 4 final. And so the night did not conquer the day. It learned to live beside it. Because you can hide from armies, but you cannot hide from an audit. A carriage rolled into New Orleans at noon, not escorted by soldiers, escorted by paperwork. Miriam Caldwell stepped down. She wore a gray dress, simple, expensive. Her eyes moved like knives. She looked at the docks, at the warehouses, at the street lamps, at the calm, and she smiled. This city is lying, her assistant blinked, ma'am. About. Miriam didn't look at him. About why it still works. At Beauregard Shipping, Seraphina sat at the head of a table, Caleb beside her. The heirs present older now. Vivi calm, composed, Remy quiet, observant, Celeste attentive, Bastien restless, Odette smirking, Luke flipping a coin and catching it, Rosalie watching everyone's intent like weather. Evangeline entered with a folded letter. "We have a visitor." Seraphina's voice was smooth. "From where?" "Charleston." "An auditor." Caleb exhaled slowly. "That's not random." Vivi's eyes narrowed. "She's a probe," Rosalie whispered, "and she's not afraid." Miriam Caldwell entered the office. Seraphina rose politely. "Madam Caldwell." Miriam smiled as if she'd practiced it. She looked at Caleb. "Mr. Thibodeau." Then she looked at the heirs. Her smile tightened. "A large family." Seraphina's voice stayed gentle. "Blessed." Miriam sat without being invited. She opened her folder. "A cargo ship insured through a London syndicate vanished last month." Caleb's tone remained calm. "Ships vanish." Miriam nodded. "Yes. But yours vanish less than anyone else's." Silence. Miriam continued. "Your workers live longer. Your streets are calmer. Your fires stop before they spread." She leaned in slightly. "Your business is not merely profitable, it is protected." Seraphina's eyes remained warm. "We invest in safety." Miriam's eyes sharpened. "I believe you. I just want to know what you invested in." Rosalie's eyes unfocused. She spoke quietly to Vivi, telepathic. "Her intent is not greed." Vivi's gaze stayed fixed. "Then what?" Rosalie swallowed. "Control." Luke's coin slipped from his fingers. For the first time in years, it hit the floor and rolled under Miriam's chair. Miriam noticed. She smiled without looking down. "Careful. Little accidents reveal big truths." Miriam closed her folder. "I will need access to your manifests, your ledgers, your insurance documents, and your night patrol records." Caleb's jaw tightened. "That's intrusive." "That's standard." She stood. "If you cooperate, you remain an admirable family business. If you resist, I assume you are hiding something." Seraphina's smile stayed polite. "We have nothing to hide." Miriam nodded once. "Wonderful." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "One more thing." She looked back at Seraphina. "I've read about cities that belong to myths. They always end the same way." She left. When the door closed, Bastien spoke first. "We should kill her." Seraphina's gaze snapped to him. "No." Odette smirked. "We should scare her." Seraphina's tone was controlled. "No," Luke whispered. "We could get lucky." Caleb held up a hand. "No miracles." Vivi looked at her parents. "Then what?" Seraphina's voice lowered. "We outlast her." Rosalie's eyes remained distant. "She's not alone. She belongs to a network." Evangeline's face darkened. "The ledgerman." Caleb's expression hardened. "Then it begins." That night, Miriam Caldwell wrote a letter, not to Charleston, to London. She sealed it with black wax. Then she whispered to herself, "I found the spine of the city. Now I find the creature wrapped around it." Luck is never free. It is a loan, and eventually someone comes to collect. The next morning, the river ran wrong. Not slow, not fast. Wrong. A cargo barge drifted off course as if pushed by an unseen hand. Dock workers shouted, ropes snapped. A stack of crates began to fall toward a group of children. Luke's eyes widened. He didn't think, he reached. The air tightened. Probability tilted. The crates missed. By inches, no one died. The dock workers cheered. A miracle. Then the river answered. A second barge half a mile away collided with a pier. Wood shattered, men screamed, oil spilled into water, fire caught. Luke froze. His coin slipped from his fingers. "No." Vivi grabbed his shoulder. Luke's face went pale. "I paid for it. I paid with someone else." Caleb arrived within minutes. He took one look at the fire and understood. Not arson, not accident, a rebound. He turned to Luck. His voice stayed calm, by force. How big was the tilt? Luck's throat tightened. I saved the kids. Caleb nodded once. Good. Now fix the debt. Luke swallowed. I can't undo what already happened. Rosalie stepped forward, eyes distant. You can redirect what's coming next. Everyone turned to her. Something is being drawn toward Luck, like a storm following a bell. As the fire spread, Miriam Caldwell appeared at the docks. Not panicked, prepared. She had men with her, inspectors, scribes, and a photographer. She watched the chaos like it was evidence. Caleb approached her, composed. This is an emergency. Miriam nodded sympathetically. Yes. And emergencies are where patterns show themselves. She gestured toward Luck. Your son was here when the crates didn't fall. Caleb's blood went cold. And he was also here when the river corrected. She leaned closer. Tell me, Mr. Thibodeau, do miracles run in families? Caleb smiled. It looked human. It was not. Hard work does. Miriam's eyes glittered. We'll see. At the edge of the burning pier, the airs moved with quiet precision. Remy stitched shadow under the dock to hold weakened beams in place. Celeste traced witchlight runes to dampen sparks and slow flames spread. Odette blinked through smoke, pulling trapped men free, one by one, fast enough that no one could track her. Bastien carried barrels away from the fire like they were sacks of flour. Vivi spoke softly to the crowd. Breathe. Fear eased, just enough to stop a stampede. Luke stood shaking. Caleb stepped close. Listen. Luck met his eyes. Your gift is not a toy. You ground it, now. Luke swallowed hard. He knelt, he pressed his coin into the wet dirt. He whispered the grounding ritual he'd been taught. Salt and stone. Debt to earth. The air released like lungs unclenching. Rosalie exhaled. Better. But not over. That night, Luke woke gasping. He could feel it. A presence. Not in the room, in the odds. A whisper behind chances. Rosalie entered silently. Her eyes were wide. The storm is not natural. Luck trembled. Then what is it? Rosalie swallowed. Someone is feeding on your rebounding luck. Silence. Rosie continued. A witch can do it. Or something older. Across town in a rented room, Miriam Caldwell pinned a photograph to a board. It showed Luke at the docks. Not doing magic. Just being present at impossible timing. Miriam wrote one word beneath it. Anomaly. Then she wrote a second word. Air. In war, enemies take your weapons. In witchcraft, enemies take pieces of you. Celeste stood in the apothecary after closing. She felt something wrong. Not a sound. A missing. She opened the back cabinet. A hidden drawer. Empty. Her breath caught. No. Evangeline appeared behind her like a shadow. What is it? Celeste held up a small velvet pouch, or what remained of it. They took my braid ribbon. Evangeline's eyes sharpened. Hair? Celeste nodded, jaw tight. A few strands. Evangeline whispered, sympathetic binding. That night, Seraphina gathered the heirs. Caleb stood near the door, protective but controlled. Seraphina's voice was calm. We have a red thorn breach. Bastien tensed. We crush them. Seraphina's gaze cut to him. We do not reveal ourselves. A pause. We remove them quietly. Rosalie stepped forward. I can find them. Seraphina studied her. How? Rosalie's voice was soft. They're dreaming with Celeste's hair. It leaves a trail. Caleb nodded once. Then you won't go alone. Odette grinned. Finally, Vivi's expression turned serious. We go as a unit. They sat in a circle, salt at the corners, a single candle. Rosalie led. Her voice was barely a whisper. Follow my thread. The heirs closed their eyes, the world dissolved, and they fell. Not asleep, downward, into a shared dream space. In the dream, a door appeared, painted red. Thorns wrapped the handle. Rosalie touched it. It opened. Inside was a ritual room, candles made of black wax, a bowl of ink, Celeste's hair floating like a living thread. Sister Bramble stood over it. 7 keys. 1 lock. Odette stepped forward. Hey. Bramble turned slowly, smiling too wide. Ah. The heirs come in person. Vivi's voice sharpened. Leave our sister. Bramble laughed. Your sister was never yours alone. Bramble raised her hands. Dream thorns surged. Remy stitched shadow into a shield. In dream space, shadows still obeyed him. They blocked the thorns. Bastien stepped forward like a wall. Celeste flared witchlight and shattered the bowl. Ink splashed across the floor. The ritual faltered. Bramble hissed. "You think breaking the bowl breaks the spell?" Rosalie stepped closer, eyes colder than her voice. "No. Breaking you does." She snapped dream chain around Bramble's intent. Bramble froze. Her smile slipped. Bramble gasped, fighting the chain. And through that struggle, Rosalie saw it. A memory. A training room. A woman learning how to watch patterns, how to build a case, how to prove the impossible without saying it. Rosalie opened her eyes in the waking world, breathing hard. Miriam. The others blinked awake. Seraphina's face went still. "What about Miriam?" Rosalie swallowed. "She's been trained by witches. By the Red Thorn Remnant." Silence hit like a blow. Caleb's voice was low. "So the audit isn't just paper." Evangeline's expression hardened. "It's a ritual in daylight clothing." In her rented room, Miriam Caldwell opened her own small pouch. Inside was a thorn charm. She touched it and whispered, "Sister Bramble." Her eyes narrowed. "Report." The charm stayed silent. Miriam smiled slowly. "So they can fight." "Good." She took out a fresh ledger page and wrote, "Phase 2, the Ash King. Some enemies want to defeat you, others want to adopt you, and the most dangerous ones want to inherit you." The Ash King arrived at dusk, not sneaking, not hiding. He walked the main street like he owned the air. A tall man with southern polish, a black coat cut perfectly, a smile designed for trust. Behind him, a small procession of vampires, disciplined, quiet, expensive. He paused outside Beauregard Shipping and waited. Like a man confident the door would open. Inside, Evangeline rushed to Seraphina. "He's here." Seraphina's face didn't change. "Gideon." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Ashcroft." Rosalie's eyes unfocused. "His intent is patient and hungry." Seraphina met Gideon at the front hall. Her glamour was perfect, her smile was practiced. Gideon bowed. "Queen Seraphina." Seraphina's voice stayed calm. "You are not invited." Gideon's smile widened. "And yet I am welcomed by your peace." He looked at Caleb. "Consort." Caleb's voice was flat. "Say what you came to say." Gideon nodded as if amused. "Very well." He stepped closer. "Just enough to be intimate, not enough to be attacked. The world is tightening around you. Paper, witches, councils." He glanced toward the back where the heirs stood, older now, watching. His eyes flickered with approval. "And 7 heirs." Seraphina's tone cooled. "Do not look at them." Gideon lifted a hand politely. "Forgive me. I look because I respect." He placed a sealed document on the table. A covenant. Caleb didn't touch it. "Explain." Gideon's voice turned smooth. "I offer protection. I offer unity. I offer the Ash Covenant's remnants, folded into your crescent order." Seraphina's eyes narrowed. "And the price?" Gideon's smile remained. "A seat on your council." He leaned in slightly. "And a betrothal." Silence snapped. Odette's expression changed. Dangerous delight. Bastien's shoulders tensed. Vivi's eyes sharpened. Celeste's hands faintly glowed. Luck's coin stopped moving. Rosalie's gaze went distant. Caleb's voice was a warning. "To whom?" Gideon's eyes stayed on Seraphina. "One heir. To my bloodline." Seraphina's voice went deathly calm. "No." Gideon sighed as if disappointed. "Then you misunderstand. This isn't a request." After Gideon left, unharmed, unbothered, Bastien found Caleb alone. Bast spoke low. "He's right about one thing." Caleb didn't turn. "Which part?" His voice tightened. "We're surrounded." "Paper doesn't scare me. Witches don't scare me." He stepped closer. "I'm tired of pretending we're guests in a city we protect." Caleb faced him. His voice stayed controlled. "You want dominion." Bastien didn't deny it. "I want honesty. If we rule, we stop hiding." Caleb's gaze hardened. "If we rule openly, we invite extinction." Bastien's jaw clenched. "Or victory." Caleb stepped closer. "Or you become exactly what the Concord warned the world about." Silence. Bastien looked away first, but the hunger stayed. That night, Gideon stood on a balcony across the river. A shadow approached. Not vampire, a witch. Sister Bramble, alive, injured, resentful. Gideon smiled. You failed. Bramble's eyes burned. They're stronger than expected. Gideon nodded slightly. Good. Pressure reveals fractures. He looked toward the city. I don't need to defeat Seraphina. I only need one heir to choose me. In Miriam Caldwell's room, a courier delivered a crate. Inside was a device. Brass, glass, cranked by hand, a lens, a shutter, a memory trap. Miriam touched it gently. If they erase minds, we will record truth. The unseen clause was never meant to be tested by honesty. It was meant to be tested by panic. Scene 1. The Human Council summoned Seraphina again. This time no polite tone, no tea. Councilman Dupré looked exhausted. Father Lavoie looked satisfied. Miriam Caldwell sat quietly in the corner, uninvited, yet present. Seraphina felt the trap as soon as she entered. There's been incidents. He slid papers forward. Workers claiming they saw impossible things. Father Lavoie leaned in. And every witness forgets details after speaking with your people. Seraphina's smile was careful. Trauma makes minds inconsistent. Miriam spoke softly. Trauma makes minds repeat patterns. Unless someone edits them. Silence. Caleb's voice stayed even. You have no proof. Miriam nodded. Not yet. She placed her hand on a folder. But I have leverage. Dupré swallowed. We need reassurance. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. Reassurance. Father Lavoie spoke. A public demonstration, a murmur around the room. Caleb's blood ran cold. Demonstration of what? Father Lavoie's eyes sharpened. That your night patrols are real. That your protection is human. Miriam added gently, a simple test. If you refuse, the treaty dissolves. Dupré looked away. Seraphina understood. They'd been blackmailed. That evening, the city square filled. A safety demonstration, they called it. Lanterns hung. Guards stood in rows. Citizens gathered, curious and afraid. Seraphina stood at the edge of the platform as Madame Beauregard. Caleb beside her. The heirs hidden in the crowd, eyes everywhere. Miriam Caldwell stood near a wagon. Inside it, concealed under cloth, the brass lens device. Already loaded, already aimed. Father Lavoie raised his hands. Tonight we prove the city is not ruled by darkness. Murmurs. He gestured to the guards. Bring the prisoner. A man was dragged forward, dirty, shaking. Not a criminal. A scapegoat. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. Rosalie's voice entered Seraphina's mind. He's innocent. Vivi's voice followed, and afraid. Caleb's jaw clenched. This is bait. The square went quiet. Then, a scream from the crowd. An Ash Covenant strike team surged from alleys, coordinated, fast. They didn't attack the guards. They attacked the civilians, because panic forces revelation. Bastien's body tensed. Odette's eyes lit up. Celeste's hands glowed. The heirs were about to break the unseen clause. Seraphina's voice cut through the telepathic storm. Controlled response. Caleb added, no spectacle. Vivi exhaled. She stepped into the crowd, unseen by focus. She spoke softly. Stay calm. Fear lowered, not gone, lowered. Remy stitched shadow beneath a collapsing lantern line, preventing it from falling on a child. Odette blinked once, only once, pulling a woman out of a knife's path. Luke tilted a musket misfire harmlessly into the air. Celeste shattered an ash glamour with a single rune, but she kept her light hidden under her sleeve. Bastien wanted to charge. He didn't. He held. Barely. Barely. Miriam Caldwell watched, not the fight, the impossible timing. She turned the crank. The shutter clicked, once, twice, 3 times. A photograph captured Odette's afterimage. Not clear, but wrong enough. Miriam's lips parted slightly. A quiet triumph. Rosalie felt it like a sting. She whispered to Vivi. She recorded us? How? Rosalie's eyes narrowed. Paper learns, now glass learns too. That night, Miriam developed the photograph. In the dim red light of her rented room, an image appeared. A young woman, Odette, standing in 2 places at once. Miriam's hands shook, not from fear, from certainty. She whispered, Miriam, found you. She sealed the photograph into an envelope, addressed it, not to the council, not to London, to a name written in elegant ink, Gideon Ashcroft. The First Civil War did not start with violence. It started with a photograph. The image reached covens before sunrise, folded, copied, whispered. A girl standing in two places at once. No name, no explanation, just proof. Coven leaders stared at it in silence. Some felt fear, others felt relief, because now they could stop pretending. Gideon Ashcroft convened an emergency gathering, not hidden, not secret, open enough to be deniable. He held the photograph up. This is not myth. This is leverage. Murmurs. A coven lord spoke. The queen promised restraint. Gideon nodded. But restraint with heirs is still dominion. We rule openly, carefully. Or we let humans decide our fate. Silence. Then, movement. 3 coven leaders stepped forward. Then 2 more. The fracture was real. Back at the Crescent headquarters, Bastien stared at the river. His fists clenched. Caleb approached quietly. You saw it. Bastien didn't turn. He's not wrong. Caleb waited. We're reacting. Always defending. He turned, eyes fierce. If we ruled, no one would dare audit us. Caleb's voice was steady, and the children would grow up as symbols. Targets. Bastien's jaw tightened. Or kings. Caleb stepped closer. Or tyrants. Silence stretched. Bastien's breath shook. I'm tired of being the shield. Caleb softened. So was I. That's why we don't become the sword. Bastien looked away, but he didn't answer. The Crescent Council convened. Tempers flared. One leader slammed a fist on the table. You hid gods in your house. Seraphina's voice was cold. I hid children. Another sneered. Same thing now. The room erupted. Caleb stepped forward. Enough. Silence fell. We are not debating power. We are debating survival. A coven leader held up the photo. Then explain this. Rosalie stepped forward unexpectedly. Her voice was calm. That picture is a lie. Murmurs, not false. Incomplete, she met their eyes, and being used. Some leaders wavered, others didn't. The council split cleanly, those who stayed, those who walked out. That night, Gideon Ashcroft met Sister Bramble. She laid the photograph on an altar. Black candles flared. The image anchors truth. Gideon smiled. Then steal it. Bramble began to chant. And far away, Odette screamed. Power does not always arrive as strength. Sometimes it arrives as pain. Odette collapsed in the hallway. Her echoes shattered. Her body convulsed. Celeste rushed to her side. It's a binding. Rosalie's eyes unfocused instantly. They're pulling her through the image. Caleb swore under his breath. Where? Rosalie swallowed. The old sugar mill. And Gideon is there. Seraphina gathered the heirs. Odette lay unconscious. The photograph lay on the table, a weapon made of glass. We have 2 options. Silence. Erase every witness who has seen proof. Or break the veil. Caleb closed his eyes. Vivi's voice shook. If we erase minds, we become what they fear, Luke whispered. And if we break the veil, we become real. Rosalie spoke softly. They're already treating us as real. Seraphina looked at each of them, her children, her heirs. Choose. Vivi stepped forward. No erasing. No lies. Celeste's hands glowed faintly. We protect. Bastien clenched his fists, then released them. We don't rule by fear. Luke swallowed. Look, we take the risk. Rosalie met Seraphina's gaze. Let them see us. Silence. Caleb exhaled slowly. Seraphina closed her eyes. When she opened them, the queen was no longer hiding. Then we end the veil. They moved as one, to the sugar mill, where witches chanted, where Gideon waited, where Odette's echo flickered between worlds. The heirs stepped into the open. No glamour, no hiding. 7 figures, 7 powers, 7 thrones rising without crowns. Gideon laughed. Finally, he spread his arms. Show the world what you are. Vivi spoke, not calming, commanding. Listen. The chanting faltered. Remy stitched shadow across the altar. Celeste shattered runes. Bastien tore through ash guards like a living wall. Luke tilted probability not to win, to survive. Rosalie entered the dream space and snapped the binding chain. Odette gasped awake. Her eyes blazed. She blinked and stood beside her siblings. Seraphina faced Gideon. You've doomed yourselves. Seraphina's voice was steady. No. We've grown up. Caleb struck, not to kill, to end the coup. Fell, bound, alive, humiliated. The photograph shattered. Glass turned to dust. The ritual died. As dawn broke, humans gathered outside the mill. They saw shadows. They saw power. They saw 7 figures standing openly. No one forgot. The veil did not return. And somewhere, Miriam Caldwell watched from a rooftop, her face unreadable. She whispered, confirmed. They exist. The veil was never meant to last forever. It was a pause, a breath. A moment where monsters learned restraint and humanity learned to sleep. Dawn rose over New Orleans without permission. No glamour softened the light, no memories slipped away. People stood in the streets, whispering, not screaming, not fleeing, watching. At the edge of the sugar mill, 7 figures remained visible, not threatening, not hiding, waiting. Miriam Caldwell stepped forward from the crowd, no guards, no weapon. Only certainty. She held a leather portfolio under her arm, her voice carried. This city deserves answers. Silence answered her. Seraphina stepped forward, not as Madame Beauregard, as herself. Then asked. Miriam's eyes flicked to the airs. 7, alive, impossible. What are you? Seraphina did not embellish. We are not demons. We are not gods. We are a people who learn too late what fear does unchecked. Caleb stepped beside her. And a family that learned early what restraint costs. Miriam opened her portfolio. Inside were photographs, notes, ledgers, years of quiet observation. You've protected this city, she said it plainly. You've lowered crime, prevented fires, stopped plagues, and erased proof. Seraphina nodded. Yes. Miriam's voice hardened. That choice wasn't yours alone to make. Caleb met her gaze. Neither was extinction. Silence rippled. People leaned in. Miriam studied the airs again. And now, what do you want? Rosalie stepped forward. Her voice was soft, but it carried. We want to belong. A murmur spread. Vivi followed. Not to rule. Not to hide. Bastien spoke next, firm, grounded. We stand when danger comes. Odette smiled faintly. Can we walk away when it doesn't? Luke swallowed, then spoke honestly. We accept consequences. Celeste raised glowing hands, then let the light fade. And limits. Remy finished quietly. We choose restraint. Miriam exhaled. Not in fear, in calculation. Then the world will know. But it will know on terms. She looked at Seraphina. No secrets. Seraphina answered immediately. No domination. Miriam nodded. No erased minds. Caleb added. No public hunting. Miriam closed the portfolio. Then we begin negotiations. Not with monsters, a glance at the airs, with citizens. That night, under lantern light, Seraphina removed her crown. She placed it on the table. The Crescent Council watched. The heirs watched. Caleb watched her, knowing what this meant. The age of queens ends here. Gasps. She looked at her children. Not because power is gone, but because it must be shared. She stepped back. Caleb joined her. No throne, no titles, just parents. 7 chairs replaced 1, no crowns, no hierarchy, a council of equals. The heirs ascendant. Vivi spoke first. We govern by consensus. Remy nodded. Defense without expansion. Celeste added. Magic by consent. Bastien spoke firmly. Force only to protect. Odette smirked. And transparency. Luke exhaled. Even when it costs us. Rosalie closed it. And we listen before we act. The room accepted it. Not perfectly, but honestly. Years later, historians would argue about the moment the world changed. Some would say it was the night monsters revealed themselves. Others would say it was the morning they refused to rule. Seraphina and Caleb walked the river walk as daylight faded. Older. Content. Watching their children debate policy under lantern light. Caleb smiled faintly. They surpassed us. They stood together as laughter carried from the council hall. Not immortal rulers, not hidden guardians, just witnesses to a future that chose balance. And so the night did not end. It learned accountability, and the world did not fall. It learned how to live with the truth.